Hello, my name is Maxine and I'm one of the trainers at the International College of Professional Celebrants. Thank you for joining my video. I'm here to talk to you about communication styles. Now, communication is really, really important in celebrancy, and being aware of your communication style and how that might differ to the communication style that we recommend for celebrant and the communication style that most successful business people have. Recognizing the differences between your style and the desired style of a celebrant is going to be really useful for you. Now, we can change our communication styles, but quite often we can find ourselves, especially if you're under pressure or feeling emotional, reverting back to our natural communication style. But having a desirable communication style is really important, because that is going to help you secure clients. It's going to help you be successful in your meetings with funeral directors. It's going to help you in networking, which in turn is going to lead to more business. So let's explore the different types of communication styles that have been identified by psychologists. See if you recognize yourself in here, and let's have a think about the things that can pose difficulties with certain communication styles. So the first one is passive. So passive people don't like to say a lot. They don't like to really make a fuss, if you like. They like to keep the peace. They don't like to be involved in a drama, but what that means sometimes is that they don't particularly stand up for themselves, or they don't really get their point across, so they can feel left out, not listened to, and that's being listened to is really important in developing your business. So standing up for yourself and taking control is important, and if you're passive and you don't get the information you need as a celebrant, it might mean that you end up giving a ceremony that's not reflective of the deceased, for example. It might be disorganized, and basically you might end up not being able to give your client a 5-star service because you weren't able to get the information from them, especially in difficult and emotional situations. On the other hand, aggressive people are not afraid to put their point of view forward. They can dominate conversations and they can take control. And where sometimes this is desirable, especially if you're in a very threatening or uncomfortable situation, it's not the best style to have when you're actually talking to your clients, when you're talking to mourning families. The last thing that they want is an aggressive style to have to cope with on top of their grief. So if you find yourself talking over people, being agitated, pointing your finger, for example, you just might be on the aggressive side of the communication scale, and you might want to think about how you could tone that down a little bit. So passive aggressive is a really, really interesting one. Passive aggressive communicators could appear on first glance to be passive. They don't say much, but now and again you could be surprised by an outburst where what's really going on the inside comes out on the outside. It could be displayed by sarcasm, jokes, muttering, and that style can be really, really confusing to people. They don't know who you are, they don't know where you're coming from, and they don't know really how to communicate back to you. So it's really good for everybody to be able to communicate clearly and in the right way, especially for celebrants, so that they can work with their families to get a ceremony that is reflective of the deceased, or in a wedding perhaps reflects the joy, the love story, in the tone and the sentiment that your clients want. So assertive communicators tend to be the most successful celebrants, and it's the same in business. Assertive people are really good at asking in the right way for what they want. They are very, very honest in their dialogue. They're not afraid of conflict. They manage it beautifully and in the right way by saying the right words in the right tone with the right body language. And we're going to come on to some tips about how to come across as an assertive communicator. They're very considerate in group dynamics, and they can say no without upsetting anyone. They have a really, really brilliant skill to be able to do that. So How do you become more assertive? Here are our top tips. Make good eye contact. You know, if you talk to somebody and they're listening to you, but they're looking away or they're looking at your watch, the first thing you think is that they're not really listening to me. And as a celebrant, you must be listening all the time, but you must be giving the signals that you're listening. And one of the signals that you're listening is really, really maintaining that eye contact when you are listening to people and when you're speaking to people. Maintain an open body language. Nobody wants to be talking to a celebrant who's got their arms crossed, leaning back, humping, looking like they want to be somewhere else, or looking like what you're saying to them is not interesting. By keeping a very open, positive body language, your body is saying, I am listening, I want to know more. Your body language is saying, I care. Your body language is saying that you are a professional person. So be very aware of your body language. Relax your shoulders, have a relaxed demeanor, keep your body language open, and then you'll find that people relax a little more around you. And when they're relaxed around you, then they're going to give you more information. And with more information, you're in a position to give a much better ceremony. Practicing saying no is difficult. Saying no is difficult, especially as you're a celebrant, because you want to accommodate everybody and every needs. But in some situations, you might not want to work with that couple. And as a new celebrant, you can't imagine saying no to anybody. But however, it might be that once you mature as a celebrant, you find your style, that you think, do you know what? I'm confident enough to say no to this couple because I'm not going to give them the best ceremony. I'm not the best celebrant for them, and having the confidence to pass them on to another celebrant who will give them that is a really cool thing to be able to do, and practicing that is a really good thing to do. So for example, you might say, I'm really sorry, I can't do that on this occasion, but I can refer you to another celebrant. Or perhaps you might say, oh yeah, that's a really good idea, but have you thought about doing it this way? So you're acknowledging them and then moving towards them changing their mind or giving them other options in a really, really non-confrontational and assertive way. Communication has to be rehearsed. So, for example, as a new celebrant, you have to pick the phone up, make appointments with funeral directors. Then you go and see your funeral directors, and you have to feel confident when you're communicating with them. So practice, practice, and practice again. Not only your communication style for meetings, your communication style for closing the deal, if you want, when you're with couples and you really, really want to get that wedding ceremony, how do you move them on to the next step in the conversation without seeming that you're desperate or that you're really, really pushing them hard to close the deal? So practice ways of doing that. Do that with your friends and your loved ones, and practice having those conversations. Ask for feedback. If you've had a meeting with a client and they don't go with you, ask them. Feedback is absolutely essential in realizing what your communication style is like and where you could be going wrong with clients. It's an absolute jewel, but absolutely rehearse. It's you just can't rehearse too many times, and I can't really stress that enough. So I think finally, I'd like to end by talking about emotions and keeping your emotions in check. And where that isn't necessarily a communication style, it will affect your communication style. So remember, we spoke earlier about how different situations can make you revert back to what might be perhaps a non-assertive communication style. And you know, we've all been in situations where we are challenged emotionally, and you might find that happens to you quite frequently as a celebrant. So by being aware of it and being able to manage and control your emotions, then you are putting yourself in a space where you can continue to be assertive and professional, which is what we want to do at all times, and also to be able to give the best services and ceremonies that we can to our families and to our clients. So I hope you found those tips useful. If you want to find out more about communication styles, there's lots on our website and in our blogs. You can give us a call if you're thinking about becoming a celebrant to talk about communication styles. And we really go through that in a lot more detail in our training. So thank you for listening, and I hope to be seeing you in training soon.